So yeah, basically, this is just a tip of the iceberg in terms of the capabilities of Mammoth. But what we talked about, we kind of went into some of these functions. But once you start building up on this, you can do a lot. And let me just go back to my slides. And what I showed you was going from possibly unclean data and getting it shaped in a certain way. What you can do, and what most of our customers do, is take completely disparate data, different schemas, different column structures, things like that, and you can put it together. And so what that looks like is something along these lines, where you have Mammoth that sits as a transformation layer between all your sources and then your output. The key difference between Mammoth versus any other platform, and because this is done day in, day out, using other tools as well. And what's the difference between Mammoth? The key difference is that Mammoth sits close to the decision maker because of the transparency of those pipelines, the visibility of what's going on, this ability to modify it on the fly. So you no longer have IT as a bottleneck, and so this can sit in the various departmental levels. And so just as a recap, or just talking about some of the benefits, as I mentioned, it's a centralized layer that sits at closer to the decision makers. You get clear transparency, auditability on what's going on. One thing I didn't talk about or mention is you can kind of traverse back into those rules and go back to a different version of your data at any point. So this reduced IT dependency might seem like a negative for IT, but I come from that world and it is a blessing. So the engineering team can focus more on the deep tech projects, and they're no longer have to do the back and forth with the business team. So this is like a great thing for both groups. And then once you start with one connector or 3 connectors or 5 connectors and start building these pipelines, it's very easy to add more and more to this without much disruption. And speaking of disruption, this is just a thin layer. It doesn't, in a lot of cases, Mammoth sits alongside Alteryx. It sits alongside Power BI and on all these different tools. So what it typically does is it replaces sometimes these crazy Excel, the Excel mess, and you can kind of take all that Excel mess and put it into the Mammoth system. And ultimately, for any company who's trying to be AI ready, you kind of need your data in one place. You need it relatively clean. You need it standardized. And what AI engineers want to do is build the algorithms. They don't want to spend time cleaning and standardizing data. So Mammoth helps with that process quite a bit. I think it's 1 or 2 more slides. Yeah, I think that's it, the last slide. So I do want to talk about the Starbucks case study for a minute. When we started talking to Starbucks, they were getting disparate data, sales data from different countries. So the way mocha is spelt in Germany is different than Turkey. It's Turkish lira, Swiss francs, and euros, and so you have one layer of truth that's true. Mocha is spelled differently and there's different currencies. But then you need, by the time it gets to the executive team, you kind of need a different version, a standardized version. And the mocha and the euro example is just one out of probably 100 or 150 different rules that were applied. So before Mammoth, all this was done as a one-off in Excel, and it's a non-repeatable process, and Excel couldn't handle all that data, so it was broken up into multiple files. And it was a real mess. It's super error-prone. And so once we put all these rules into Mammoth, you could scale. And so it was a fairly game-changing project, just in terms of this ability to get faster insights. And that is it. I'd love to open it up to any questions anyone has.